I've been trying to, I just was on the CTA platform today, trying to figure out what she needs more from me, for the traffic and traffic control.
Oh, yeah. This opportunity, we're just, trying to put some pressure on Cartronics because as they mentioned, they usually use one vendor that kind of does soup to nuts. And so we kind of put a little bit more pressure for them to break up the opportunities so that our DBEs can get in and get some work. And so they were
Do they use TKO? Is that what they use? Because I've done a lot of ATM banks for TKO.
I'm not sure. I can find out though.
Yeah, because if it's TKO, I have a relationship with them already doing those for them.
Oh, that would be good for you. And pretty seamless for everyone, right? Yeah. The relationship's there.
It's already there. That's what they use.
Good. Thank you, Divi. I see your note here in the chat. Nice background, Mike. What's that? What's behind you?
That's up on the CTA. That's by the Argyle. They're doing 24-foot cores down the tiebacks.
Oh, wow.
But he's pulling, the piece he's holding is about, I don't know, 6 foot of the 24-foot core of the concrete he pulled out.
Nice. Hello and welcome, Ruth. How are you?
Good. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're gonna go ahead and give another 60 seconds or so that the rest of the group can join us. It seems as though most of a couple of folks are missing. Oh, Beatrice got a new emoji going on. That's cool. Ruth, I combined the, I don't know if this is recorded. I combined our presentations in one, so I can be a clicker for us, or I can pass you the remote and then you can click, whichever your preference. You want me to drive? Okay. That's cool. I've been driving in this new virtual space for some time now. So now, like, getting the long pauses, I'm getting the cues when people need you to hit the next slide so that we can eliminate the next slide, please. So hopefully we'll get through it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh no, that's okay, Beatrice. I'm sorry. I was just teasing. I thought it was cute. All right, guys, it is 4:01. It looks like the gang is all here. How's everyone doing? Good, a little bit, maybe. Nah, I've seen more smiling faces from you guys. Cool. So we are in week 6 of our 8-week educational cohort with a small business educational series. We have, just to update Ruth, week 1, we went over get on board or business opportunities. So understanding what type of opportunities are out there and where we fit in as vendors in pursuing those contract opportunities. Management at its best, talked about quality and safety controls, no guesstimating, nailing your estimates. Obviously talked about estimating your projects. Followed by on schedule and on budget, talked about budgeting and scheduling and kind of bring all of those previous subjects into the scheduling and budgeting conversations. And then last week we had getting paid and closing it out. So just making sure you're reconciling your payments, you're invoicing properly. We're having many discussions internally about assisting our small businesses and vendors on the invoicing processes. It's already bad enough that, that there sometimes are delayed payment cycles. And so we don't want any additional delays by invoicing hiccups. And so Chanel, she's planning a really good CTA kind of invoicing webinar to assist our small businesses in that process and highlight those glitches or those things that you all may get hung up on to make for a more seamless invoicing process. We want to make sure you guys get paid. I saw a webinar, it said cash is king, but something is queen. What was it? It's gonna kill me. All right. So here we are today to talk about workforce. And so we have, of course, an invited guest. And so before we invite Ruth to speak, we're just gonna go through a few things. As you all know, our housekeeping rules. Audio muted, not so much these days. It's a family, jump in, let's talk. Videos on, of course, optional, but we encourage you guys to be engaged and ask questions via the chat inbox and or raise your hand or turn on your mic. And then about 5 p.m.-ish or wherever Ruth is at a good pausing place, we'll just take a 5-minute standing break to, get water, freshen up, and then finish out the final hour. Agenda, we'll go around the room for attendance, AKA pitching to Ruth as if she had the perfect contract opportunity in her hands that's waiting for you and you want to tell her why she should give it to you. We'll address any questions or thoughts about last week's discussion, and then we'll go right into the managing your talent with Workforce Works. So to kick it off, for intros, I'm just gonna go where it is on my camera. And Mike, you're up.
Hi, I'm Mike from Allstate Concrete Cutting. We're a concrete cutting contractor. We do coring, wall sign, and street slab sign, and also demolition. And we've been in business for 11 years, since 2009. And we're just trying to hang on through all this and keep growing. And we're an MBE, BEP, and DBE contractor.
Awesome, thank you, Mike. Curtis?
Hello, this is Curtis with Fidelity Plumbing. We're a plumbing and sewer contractor located in Lake County, Illinois. We specialize in commercial and residential plumbing, and we're MBE, BEP, and DBE certified with the city, state, and IDOT.
Thank you. Melissa?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Melissa Fuller, owner of MTC Properties 1. We are a real estate development company, and we purchase vacant lots and build residential and commercial structures. And we have DBE certified MWBE, and that's it. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Melissa. Marina? Marina?
Hi, this is Alda Manion, Garces Contractors. I am MBE, WB, and DVE certified with the City of Chicago, and as well with CMS as a female business owner. We do all plumbing, water, sewer, and excavating as well. Thank you. Nice seeing you.
Thank you. Trey?
Hi, my name is Trey Kraut. I'm with QRSE. We are a professional services firm. We provide mostly transportation as our focus. We provide construction management services along with design engineering. We are a MBE, DBE, WBE. Our main office is in Honolulu, Hawaii, and I'm trying to open the office here in Illinois.
Awesome. Now, are you from here, Trey? How do you pick out the stick to be in Illinois and not in Hawaii?
So my sister owns the firm, and we both graduated from University of Illinois. I decided to stay. She moved to Hawaii, and if it wasn't for my family, I'd probably be regretting it every day. But you know, I have 3 kids and a wife that are from here, so here I am.
Here you are.
But the hope is to retire in Hawaii, so
Awesome.
got to build a business first.
All right. Thank you. Next, we have Javier.
Hi, my name is Javier Cadena. I'm a PM at Studio ARQ. An architectural firm based in Chicago.
Cool. Forrest.
How are you? Greetings,
Good.
everyone. How are you? My name is Forrest Brown, and I am a general contractor with Construction by Silverline. We specialize in renovating residential and light commercial. We do remodeling renovations, and we have our certification in construction management with the City of Chicago.
Awesome. Thank you, Forrest.
Welcome.
Lacey, I know Lacey have some audio and video or some tech issues, but she is here with us and has said hello to everyone in the chat. Divi.
Hi, everybody. I'm staying busy can everybody hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. Bridges to Rails, and I'm pretty busy the past couple of weeks continuing to add to my railroad photograph portfolio with this nice fall foliage. It's really fantastic. And 2 other things, logo revision, which is incredible. It gives you so much of a creative outlet, and networking on photography in the workplace. Thanks, folks.
Awesome. Thanks for the update, Divi. And it's
You're
always
welcome.
good for rebranding and marketing yourself, so that's good. And then last but absolutely not least, we have Beatrice of the participants. I think Beatrice mentioned she may have had some audio issues too in the
No,
chat.
I'm here.
Oh, got it.
I'm here. So hello, everyone. My name is Beatrice. I'm with Lawn Care Maven, which is an eco-friendly lawn care and landscaping company here in the Chicago area. We mainly service the Woodlawn and the surrounding areas.
And Beatrice, you're working right now, it looks like.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you for totally being committed and joining us this evening. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And then Chanel.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Chanel Harmon. I'm the coordinator for Small Business Development and Outreach.
Awesome. And then Ruth, just a quick intro before you give your full.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ruth Bernal, and I am the president and CEO of Workforce Works, a human resource consulting firm and benefits agency in Illinois.
Awesome. Thank you. And of course, I'm Jamie Neely, manager of the Small Business Development and Outreach team here at CTA. And thank you guys for coming back. Any questions or thoughts from last week's discussion? Jacobs Engineering last week. Everyone's good, putting those things to action. Thank you guys for those who joined the Surety Bond webinar this morning. And what else did we have? I think a couple of you did the Building Small Businesses Building Financial Capacity last week. So I appreciate you guys taking advantage of the external programming and support to the small business community that's, you know, specific to CTA and beyond. But I think that one, the education provides the know-how, but then 2, it allows you all to kind of stay connected with us. And you'll see oftentimes, whether it's the people that we invite into our cohort or those that's participating on procurement events or other outreach activities, you're gonna see or start to hear familiar names and faces. And that's, you know, that gives us the leverage to start building those relationships. So thank you for those who attended. And now we will dive right into today's presentation, Managing Your Talent by Workforce Works with Ruth Bernal.
Okay, I'll take it from here. Thank you for having me again, everybody. My name is Ruth Bernal. I am the Senior Consultant at Workforce Works. My tagline is avoid employee-related lawsuits, violations, and penalties. So the bottom line is I'm here to help you save money by working smarter, not harder. And just to start off, I commend you all for committing to your business. And it's nice to not be wearing a mask right now. So we'll begin. Okay, so today I'm really going to go through hiring, training, and retaining. There is a lot of cost, upfront cost involved of your time or staffing companies or whatever it takes for you to find the right candidate. And it also takes time and money to keep them, in addition to attract other talent. So I'm going to talk about best practices and things you can take away that you can immediately implement to your business right away. So let's start from what is human resources. It's very simple. It manages the business's people, which are its assets, and that we want to make sure we increase productivity and that they're there to make you money, right? You're paying them an hourly rate or a salary, so they have responsibility to you to complete whatever you hired them for to the best of their ability. So it's on you as employers, as managers, to be human resources if you don't have one in your company. And the bottom line is we're here to help the employees, whether it's concerns with people, payroll, or process. HR is typically there to step in and listen, document, address the issues so they don't escalate into lawsuits, violations, or penalties. Why is HR important? We'll just look at the responsibilities HR in these bullet points. HR or the president or sometimes the accountant, depending on how your company is structured, they select the employees, they hire the staff, they monitor ongoing training, they maybe are in charge of development of that employee. They create efficient communication channels. So if there is or are issues, sexual harassment, attendance, or overall bad behavior, the employees know where to go to with that issue, or managers know how to address those issues. Making sure that it's a good working environment. You've got to keep morale up. You got to make sure employees are motivated and happy to come to work. And other responsibilities of HR could be payroll, could be bonus structure, could also be handling the union CBA, collective bargaining agreement, anything in regards to the compensation of employees. So bi-weekly, weekly, direct deposit. Usually HR is there to step in to make sure all the documents in place, signatures are in place to be in compliance. So that's why it is important, because in state of Illinois, you as an employer are responsible for certain things with having employees. For example, new hire documents, or if you take deductions from their payroll. There are compliance and procedures in place that you must follow, or else it'll be illegal and you would be violating the employee's rights as an employee. So you always just want to keep on the up and up and not get violated for simple things like having a form on file. Next slide. So we'll start with hiring. Before you even start the employee on day one, there's costs involved with finding that employee, whether it's a referral, whether you post on Indeed or you're looking for them on LinkedIn. There's interviewing time, phone interviewing time, due diligence time, calling their references, running their background check, running their motor vehicle report, whatever it may be, the expectations for your clients, whether You do a sex offender search to make sure they're able to work in the sites that you have them working in. All of that takes time and money. And so you want to make sure that you minimize the time you're spending doing the same procedures for every hire. Number one, you have to do it consistently for every hire. So having a procedure or a process in place to make sure you're doing it the same way every time really helps with being in compliance and having structure to your hiring process. In addition to just starting that structure, you want to make sure you're hiring for attitude. So being in HR about 13 years, probably the first 5 years I was hiring for technical skill and ability and whoever had the best experience for the job. But then after so much like turnover and having to fire people for bad attitude and behavior, I realized that it's better for me to hire for attitude and have a really good training and development program. And it'll help me keep an employee longer. It helps keep a better team happy versus bringing someone on board with a bad attitude and then spreading that bad attitude amongst the team. And I just end up paying more for the technical skill because then I lose talent because of the behavior and attitude. So one of the recommendations I would do is focus on hiring for attitude. Ask behavioral questions to see how they would approach or handle situations at your workplace. If it's handling high value, multitasking, answering phones, dealing with hostile customers, see how they would handle things like that and if they're able to be a good fit for your culture. Do your due diligence, look them up on LinkedIn, look at their social media sites, call their references, call their past employers. Make sure they are who they say they are. A lot of times you have a lot of fraud and lying happening on applications and resumes. I see it all the time. So doing your due diligence and background checks is a small cost to making sure you have the right person on the team that is not opening up liability and exposure for you at your work sites, whether they're stealing or harassing or physically harming someone. And then if you would have checked their background, maybe they would have had some kind of battery charge or something along the lines of theft or robbery that would have given you a heads up that this person might do it again or maybe has just done it recently. So you really just want to double check the exposure, check your risk, and then you do your due diligence so that way you can show face. And also if you do get caught in a legal situation, you can show that you did do your due diligence in making sure you did the right hire. So at least you won't have such a big lawsuit. So do your due diligence, very minimal cost picking up the phone and checking that person's background and references. I always recommend doing phone interviews because they save time in having them come and meet you in person, especially during these times. I like doing Zoom, Skype, or iPhone chat. If at a minimum, do a phone interview. Check their attitude, check their voice. If that's going to be something that's in their job description to do, then you want to make sure that they can do it over the phone, at least communicating properly with a positive attitude or practicing good listening skills. Lastly, creative and attractive job postings. During this time, it still can be very competitive in the job market, especially with employers offering remote jobs and benefits, and everything's very expensive. Perhaps you're not able to offer remote jobs in benefits. So having an attractive job post by being creative and being flexible with your time off policies could help with attracting talent. If you can't offer benefits like employer contribution benefits, perhaps you can still set up an employee benefits package, and the employees can sign up for health care or other supplemental benefits if they can afford it within their budget, and then it gets deducted through the payroll pre-tax. So employers can do things like that, are creative to offer them benefits at a low rate because it's a group plan, but still give the option to the employees to enroll or not. In addition to, if you don't have a time off policy, you can have a flexible time off policy. So maybe summer Fridays, or have some type of flexibility, or even with payroll. Some employers have bi-weekly payroll, but sometimes if it's a low-paying job or minimum wage, maybe a weekly payroll would benefit them more, so they can pay their bills and budget with a weekly payroll. So instead of losing a good talent over something like that, you might want to look at your cash flow and see if this is an option for you to change from bi-weekly to weekly. All low-cost ways to help attract talent. Next, with training. So once you've spent all this time, money, finding the right candidate, you've made them an offer, they've accepted, you now want to train them. Depending on the level or the job description, the skill level or the job description really depends on your training. So if I were you, if it was my company, I would implement a 30, 60, 90-day review process. And it doesn't have to be anything formal. It could just be a brief 5 to 10 minute conversation or check-in to make sure that they have learned everything they need, they have access to what they need, the tools to do their job successfully. And then they give you feedback on how it's going on the job. Oftentimes it's uncovered or discovered certain things about other employees that they're doing, or perhaps a certain process in your workflow is not supposed to be done a certain way, but it's uncovered through a new hire, having a new person look at the way you do things there. Follow through doing it 60 days, and then after the 90 days, you should have this employee well trained. This person should know the rules, know what to do, pretty much be on autopilot until the next annual review or semi-annual review. This is critical for the employee's success. I can't tell you how many times I've met with companies that have employees and they've never been reviewed, or it's 6 months in and the employee's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and now the employer wants to fire them. Well, how many hours have you gone without checking in and making sure they were supposed to be doing what they were supposed to be doing? It's just a lot of time and money lost for no reason. So at least 30, 60, 90 days, check in, make sure everything's good with people, payroll, and process. If you can go back for a second. Okay. Oftentimes during the review process, the employee lets them know that I still don't understand the job, or, I'm making a lot of mistakes. Oftentimes it's not the employee, it's you. It's your management, it's your training program. Sometimes you want to reevaluate those things and make sure that they are set up for good comprehension, and maybe you have a test for validation. Some creative things you can include in your training are videos. It's a little boring to hear someone talk for hours, so I often incorporate videos, games. You can have takeaway readings, PowerPoints and PDFs, but often it's good to have them shadow the job or on the job training, doing hands-on work, actually just sitting in the driver's seat, making sure they know how to do the job. Getting employee feedback is key. You want to know what's going on in your business and if you're doing it right. It's your business, so you want to get the most and maximize your profit. And if you have an employee who's not doing the things they're supposed to be, you're losing money every hour. So lastly, with training, you don't want to jeopardize your reputation because of weak training. So in addition to actual money lost and time lost, you can jeopardize your reputation of years of doing something excellent, good customer service, safety, whatever it is, just by having that one employee and a misunderstanding and a bad attitude and didn't have anyone listening to them. They'll go on to social media and rant about their negative experience, whether it be true or not. Some of those things I wouldn't even risk putting it out there because it's hard to take off the internet. So don't jeopardize your reputation because of weak training. So next, once you've hired them, once you've trained them, you want to make sure you keep this employee that has now become an investment of yours, become a real asset to your company. So keeping the right employee is just as important as hiring them. And what you want to do is find out what makes your top performers happy, okay? You can do this by doing surveys when you have 30, 60, 90-day reviews, semi-annual reviews or annual reviews. You want to just ask, you know, how they are, what's making them happy, really listen to what their feedback is, and then use that to keep them, right? Don't take away those things, right? Maybe add on to it or make sure other employees are able to access those same benefits. I love having an open door policy because it allows employees to feel comfortable sharing the good and the bad. Employees oftentimes don't want to share what's really happening with the boss or the owner. So having HR or a neutral third party like myself oftentimes give employees the courage or just a little more comfortability to share sensitive things that are happening in the organization, possibly with the boss. Rewarding and recognizing employees help with morale. So even having like recognition for somebody's birthday, whether it's an email blast or letting them know in person happy birthday, is very low cost for employee recognition. You can do this also with years of service or anything else that you guys use as a metrics for your workplace. Attendance, safety, zero complaints, again, whatever you really measure at your workplace as a performance indicator. Remove the negative, non-performing time wasters. People will leave because of them. So I also often find companies that have employees that have been there for years and years and years, but this is the reason why they're experiencing high turnover, or this is the reason they're experiencing any kind of drama in the workplace. Sometimes employees will see other employees wasting time on their phones or not doing their job or not having the right attitude towards their job. That will affect them, and maybe they'll follow that same type of bad attitude, same morale, or they'll decide, I don't want to work alongside people like this. It doesn't make me feel good to come to work next to somebody like this. So it's a hard pill to swallow for employees to have to, or for employees to have to fire people, but it just comes with the territory of owning a business. I don't like doing it, but I have to in order for the entire team to keep moving forward. And that's the last thing I'll say with retaining employees. What I want to share with you guys next is the employee life cycle. So I've created this over the last 5 years that I've been in business doing HR for a number of clients in dozens of industries. Even with thousands of employees that I've serviced, it's the same cycle for every employee. Owners will find this very familiar. If you have contractors, it's a different cycle, but we still start off the same way, and I'll explain. So when you start here, you are talking to an employee or a worker, and you're offering them a salary or an hourly rate for that job description, whether it's an employee or whether it's a contractor. If it's an employee, you're going to continue the cycle and do an onboarding with them, and I'll go through that in a second. But if it's a contractor, an independent contractor, a true independent contractor, you're going to collect the very minimum from the contractor, like their license, their certificate of insurance, and their W-9 for their 1099 at the end of the year. If you really have your ducks in a row, you're going to have that independent contractor sign an independent contractor agreement stating that they are an independent contractor and not an employee. You will treat them differently, like no control, and they will do XYZ with their expertise for a fixed dollar amount or a flat rate, whatever you negotiate with that contractor. What I'm going to talk about now is if you hire employees only, okay? So employee life cycle, they're going to fill out the new hire paperwork and be on your payroll and receive a W-2 at the end of the year. So employees should go through some kind of onboarding and orientation, and I highlight this as critical because it's, in my opinion, it helps you with the legal side and the compliance side of making sure your ducks are in a row. So for every new hire, on their first day of the job and the first hour of employment, this is what all employers really should be getting out of the way. The new hire paperwork. Make sure you have an application on file. Make sure you're asking the right legal questions on your application. Make sure you have a new hire checklist and document everything that is issued to that employee. Uniform, keys, cell phone, equipment, access. And then make sure that they sign any other legal documents like the I-9 form to make sure they're eligible to work in the United States. Make sure they sign the W-4s, the tax withholdings. And if you issue them electronic equipment, make sure they sign off for it. So if they lose it, if they damage it, they have skin in the game, maybe for not all of it for replacement, but maybe 50% or maybe $100. I know cell phones can be very costly, and laptops, tablets, etc. It'll help the employee not be careless with your company equipment. And then, like, if you take pictures for marketing, make sure they sign a promotional release, make sure they sign the policy handbook, a safety handbook. The employees will sign everything and anything the first day of the job. They want the job. If you try to collect all these documents and signatures like a week later, a month later, maybe they're going to say no, or maybe they're not going to return it with the same urgency that they would on the first day. So in my experience, I get this all completed in the first day, first hour, then it's all in the company file folder. Payroll can access what they need to take care of payroll. HR can keep whatever they need for their human resources file. If there's an accident or injury, we have everything in place, signed. If there's a unemployment situation down the road, we have policy handbook signed that they know the rules. So it's to your advantage to do this. Just get it out of the way, all this administrative HR stuff. Direct deposit information, etc. So now this is the first day of work. You've completed the HR onboarding. The employee now knows where the bathrooms are, emergency exits, where to go for lunch, maybe what time lunch is, how long lunch is, where they need to check out. All these things that you should make sure you go over with the employees. If they're a smoker, where the designated smoke areas are, so on and so forth. It's all part of the employee experience at your company. So now it's the 30, 60, 90-day check-in point. And again, this doesn't have to be anything really formal. It's a phone call or an email or like a Survey Monkey, a simple form asking them how it's going. Do they need more training? Have they had any issues with anyone at work or anything at work? And hopefully it's 100% perfect and you can keep going to the 60-day mark, to the 90-day mark. Typically, there are some issues like attendance or behavior or mistakes on the job, so more training needs to be involved. But in a perfect world, the 30, 60, 90-day is no issues. You just breeze through it. Oftentimes, people wait or select 90 days as a key time in employment to offer benefits. So after an employee completes 90 days successfully, the company in their business mind has made money from you doing your job, and you in essence have made money doing your job and the company has paid you. So after 90 days, employers typically want to then offer the major medical, dental, vision, retirement, or other ancillary product options to the employee. Sometimes companies do this on day one, but sometimes I see this happening more on the 30-day or 90-day time frame. 90 days is also critical, enough time, enough data to see how the employee has been doing at work. So sometimes employers want to offer like, let's say the employee initially wanted $20 an hour. Well, the employer can say, I'll give you $19.50 on day one. And then after completing 90 days successfully, I'll give you that other 50 cents and give you $20 an hour. So that's a way for an employer to negotiate with the employee and make sure the employee is really committed to learning the best that they can those first 30, 60, 90 days. So I see that happening a lot too. During any time in this employee life cycle, the employee can experience anything in this green box, and HR has to be ready to address them immediately and the same or consistently the same to all the employees, except if you have an employee with disabilities. Then you can treat it a little bit differently. But for the most part, employees have attendance issues. If they got in an accident at work, if they need Spanish translation, if they've experienced sexual harassment, if they've behaved poorly at work, or anything with their work visa, F1, J1, H1B, etc. Even if when the employee leaves, either through termination or if they resign, HR or the owner has to still deal with unemployment if a claim is filed. So all of these employee relations can happen at any time in the employee life cycle. So it's good to have HR or a policy handbook to dictate how these things are handled, who handles them, how are they handled, etc. If an employee makes it to halfway down the year, 6 months, if the job is critical of excellent performance and excellent metrics, I would definitely recommend that you do a semi-annual review. If their performance and their metrics are not where they need to be in 6 months, step in and correct it. Add additional training. Do not waste your time and money if you can see that the employee is not doing their job right. Typically, employers want to wait maybe a whole year to review an employee. Maybe they feel that 12 months of work data is enough to review them and see if they should keep them on their team, develop them, or let them go. If it's a problem where the employee is not doing their job, where they need to perform better, you can introduce a performance improvement plan to the employee. A PIP, a PIP. A performance improvement plan is a chance to identify the specific problem and apply a solution. So it gives you a last chance to save the employee that you've already spent time and money in hiring, in training, and now you're retaining the employee. So before saying, you know what, let's fire them, I can't do this anymore, maybe this is a chance to correct the problem. If in 30 days or less, the problem cannot be corrected and it's very clear that there is no way of saving this employee relationship, then you have to terminate them. I recommend having proper termination, having an exit checklist, making sure you collect everything that you have issued, discuss proper last payroll, decisions, maybe discuss benefits and COBRA, continuation of coverage, anything that really you need to take control of when an employee leaves. If in the process improvement plan, the employee decides, you know what, I appreciate the effort of saving my job here. I just really can't stand you or the company anymore. I'm leaving. Well, the employee in Illinois, they can leave. It's an at-will state. So they can leave anytime with notice or without. And at that time, I still recommend all employers and the company to follow through with an exit interview and an exit checklist. So whether you're firing them or whether they are resigning, the employer is still on the hook for collecting their equipment, for making sure they have what they need when the employee leaves. And most importantly, finding out why an employee is leaving. So oftentimes employers just want to do an interview. I recommend and highly recommend that employers do an exit interview to find out why employees are leaving. Is it a manager? Is it a process? Is it the hourly rate? What is it? Why are they leaving? And I have 7 key questions that I ask. And I provide that feedback to the employer. Now it's up to them to make a decision to change these things, or at least they know for the next employee that these things might be an issue, and they'll take the chance of having this employee deal with it or, leave for the same reasons. After a while, people see the pattern in data and they're either forced to make a change or they clearly have to understand that they're losing money because they're deciding to stay like a mean old boss, or they're deciding to manage with an iron fist and, swear or be disgruntled. That you decide what you want to do with your company at the end of the day, but at least you know the truth, at least you know the data. And then if you do have a lawsuit or unemployment claims, you as a company, you as the owner can say, yes, I know why this employee left. I have documented notes. I know the date. I know why they left. I've collected my things, or at least attempted to. And it'll be a smoother exit. Oftentimes, employees come back and you do a rehire. So you want to make sure you just treat the exit process just as important as the onboarding and hiring process. So I would recommend you use this employee life cycle as a guide to make sure that you are addressing these points with your employees at these specific times in the employee life cycle. And a little plug to my business, if you need help with any of the stages in this cycle, please feel free to contact me. We can do this in English and in Spanish. A little information of why Workforce Works before we go into some takeaways for you all. Workforce Works is a benefits agency, insurance agency, as well as a human resource consulting firm. So if you need to shop benefits, if you're thinking of starting an employee benefit package, we can handle that for you in English and in Spanish. We're also minority certified, like a lot of you all in this Zoom. We do face-to-face on-site services. Even during this time of COVID, we wear a mask or a face shield, or we do Zoom. We have affordable HR solutions, and we have $1 million errors and omissions policy. So I know, like you guys with your business insurance, know how important it is to have that in place. We can go on to the next slide. This is me and my team member, Julieta. We have over 15 years of HR experience combined at this point, and we went to school for HR. HR is what we work in, and HR is truly our passion. We love helping people. We can go to the next one. This is my information. If you want to share the slides with the team, you guys can feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I still have a little bit more of content for you guys, so I won't say goodbye yet, but feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or via email, or give me a call with any of your employee-related questions. I think I have a couple more worksheets.
Oh yeah, let me pull those up for you. Give me just a second.
My office is in Ravenswood, like 3 blocks from Wrigleyville. So if you guys are in the area, you guys can make an appointment and stop in and see me.
Can I ask you a quick question while she's pulling that up?
Yes.
Okay, this is Melissa Fuller with MTC Properties One. Great presentation, thank you. Actually, it's right on time because I'm working on a project right now that I will be needing to hire. And one of my resources I'm looking at is temporary work. And I noticed you haven't mentioned that. Is that still something that's readily available these days? Are people still working with temp services or temp agencies? And if so, what is that process? What does it look like?
Sure, I'll briefly say that I know temp agencies are definitely being used still. Temp agencies offer benefits and minimum wage and more to employees, so they often keep these employees at the staffing agency. And so the process would be contacting any local staffing agency in your area, letting them know what position you're looking for temporary help, and asking them what those rates will be. They're gonna ask you what you're willing to pay as a minimum. And so you give them a range, maybe $12 to $15, right? And what staffing companies do is they have to add a margin. They have to add a percentage to that hourly rate. So depending on the staffing company, it's usually like 20 to 35% annually temp to hire. Otherwise, it's like a couple dollars more from what you're willing to pay hourly, and then you keep them on however long. So I recommend putting a post on Indeed, seeing what candidates come by, and you can add a budget of like $10 a day. But you have to do all the legwork. You have to interview them, background check them, do all the due diligence. So yeah, I've gotten great success doing both, but I'm not a staffing company, but I can help you from the moment that you do decide on a hire.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Ruth, can you hear me?
Hi, Mike. Yes.
Question. Do you have package rates for, like, as if we used to for, in our yearly budget? Is there, whether we're hiring people or you're giving our staff, the people in charge of different areas, the paperwork to train them through the process, and then
Yes.
it would still go through you back to me.
Yeah, so I offer a 12-month package depending on employee size and complexity of the organization. I offer a 12-month plan for a A to Z HR department. So I handle everything HR for you and your team. Or I offer a la carte services. So if you and your team have a very specific or unique situation, like an employee accident investigation or sexual harassment training, I can also do that a la carte.
Great.
Yeah, well, we can talk offline. I can send you a proposal. Just shoot me an email.
Okay, thank you, Ruth.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here to help. Can we go to the worksheets? Oh, I think I can click on them maybe. Oh, here we go. I want to make sure I stay on time. I think I have about half an hour. Is that right? Oh,
We're here for the entire 2 hours, so take as much time as you need.
okay, good, good, good. Okay, so this next part, this is now if you have an established workforce, okay? You've already hired, you have a team, and now this is what I recommend all the companies have in place for their worker, whether it's 1 employee, 50, especially if you have 300 or more, okay? Because this allows you as an employer to have control, not over the employees, because we're human, but over your workforce and over what you want your work policies to be, okay? So if you don't have a policy handbook, this is a good starting point, a guideline of what you should include in a policy handbook. And I won't go over each one, but I will just kind of talk real briefly on them. With a policy handbook, the reason you have it is to tell the employee what the rules are at your organization, right? What are the policies with dress code? What are the policies with attendance? What are the policies with using your equipment and internet for business or personal reasons? What is your policy on social media? Can they be on Facebook? Can they do online shopping? All those things, it's your opportunity to control the situation for the main purpose of making sure that employee is successful and productive for your company, okay? We're human, so we know we get distracted. We know we like to be on our phones and social media. It's just the times we live in. So as an employer, I wouldn't let those things stop me from making money, but I'm not going to fight the system. I'm just going to work with the tools that allow me to help my team stay focused. So if I got to tell my IT department to block certain sites like Victoria's Secret or gambling or porn or Spotify, YouTube, then I'm going to do it. So that way it ensures me that employee, even if they tried to log in, they're not going to be able to. They're only going to be able to log in the sites that have them doing work. QuickBooks, Outlook email, etc. So let's begin. Employment classifications. You want to start with classifying your employees. Are they full-time? Are they part-time? Are they temporary? Are they project-based? Is it an independent contractor? You want to know this because this is going to tell you if they are entitled to overtime or not. Are they an exempt employee or not? Equal employment opportunity, unlawful harassment. It's illegal to discriminate. It's illegal to harass. So make sure you have a clause in there to remind the employees, don't behave this way here. Have a dress code. Make sure to show respect and to other religions that have headdress or other dress codes that are maybe outside the norm, but if it's part of their culture, you want to show them that space in your workplace that is allowed. So if you don't allow baseball caps, that's okay, but maybe you're okay with other types of head wraps that are more culturally sensitive, things like that. So maybe outlining things of that nature in your policy handbook if that's something that you run into in your workplace. If you have a warehouse or you don't want anyone to wear sandals, you want to make sure to state in your policy handbook under dress code, no open toe shoes. This will avoid any toe worker comp accidents, right? Or toe injuries at work. Having a green environment protection policy, if you're big on recycling, if you're big on shredding, things like that. I like attendance and punctuality because then you can hold employees accountable when they don't arrive on time to work. You can hold them accountable if they take too long during lunch or break. This is an easy one to win in unemployment because they are 100% in misconduct for arriving late, for leaving early, for not adhering to your lunch rules. Overtime, if they're entitled to overtime, this is any time worked after 40 hours in a work week period, pay them the time and a half. I've seen a lot of ugly cases, class action lawsuits, all because the employer didn't want to pay time and a half. If this is the cost of doing business in your industry, assess if you can do it because it costs way more. And they'll charge you for back up to 3 years back, in addition to penalties and attorney fees, all for a time and a half. We're talking dollars. So don't get into overtime issues. Social media, have a policy for that so they don't post confidential information or make sure they're not able to be on social media during working hours. It's a time waster for sure. Confidentiality, make sure you have these like in a separate document outside of the policy handbook. As I'm told by attorneys, I'm not an attorney, but it holds a little stronger in court if it's signed separately from the policy handbook. But essentially the confidentiality clause tells the employees everything that you see and hear and are exposed to, drawings, exhibits, process, charts, strategy, marketing, that's all company information and they're not allowed to share it or sell it. It's important to have. We continue down on this list. If you have a very, very strong intellectual property that you want to secure, maybe having a non-solicitation or non-compete or non-disclosure agreements, perhaps this is something you want to address with your attorney and have drafted up. They're a little more on the legalese with the verbiage. So if proprietary information for you and your company is a big deal, I would invest in the money in protecting that intellectual property and have these agreements drafted. I also ask about secondary employment. Sometimes people have to work 2 jobs and I'm okay with that, but I want to make sure that this second job is not going to disrupt their primary employment, which is your work, right? So just knowing and having that conversation could avoid schedule conflict or misunderstandings down the road. Another big one I recommend you all have is a drug and alcohol free workplace. Now, this is very controversial. It's, you know, very popular topic with marijuana and cannabis being legal in Illinois, but nonetheless, as an employer, as a company, you have the right to not allow employees to be intoxicated during work hours, let alone use alcohol and use marijuana during working hours. So I would put something in your policy handbooks that give the company the right to test for drug and alcohol. So for example, if an employee comes to work lazy-eyed, slurred speech, smelling of intoxicants, you as a company want to have the right to say, I'm not letting you operate my machinery. I'm not letting you send one email or make one phone call on my behalf until we figure this out. So we send them in an Uber to test drug and alcohol. If it's positive, we deal with the repercussions of what those results are. But I always want to make sure that the company has the right to test. So whether it's for pre-employment, whether it's for post-accident, so before having the employee return back to work, suspicion-based, random, give yourself that right to send the employee to test. If it tests positive, you as the employer have the right to let them back to work with a warning, with a write-up, with a suspension, whatever you want to do. Or you can say, yep, that's it, 0 tolerance. I can't afford for someone to be on my job high or drunk. I can't afford it. If there's an accident, the workers' comp and the safety liability is way too big, or if the media finds out, if the news finds out, you know, it's the end of my business. So you have to assess how important it is. If you run a company that's like super creative and there's no safety issues and they work from home, maybe you don't care if they get high at work. That's up to you, but give yourself the right anyway. So if they do walk into your place of business to work, you have the right to send them the test and you have the right to fire them if they do try to show up to work drunk or high. Don't ever do your own tests. Always send them to like an Amita Health or Concentra occupational clinic. Just release yourself of that liability. Accidents, have an accident policy. Make sure employees know to report any accident or injury within 24 hours. This way you can do a proper investigation, talk to supervisors, check the cameras, take pictures. Workers' comp costs a lot of money, let alone having claims on your workers' comp policy costs a lot of money at renewal. So this is another way you can keep your costs down, is having a good safety program and mitigating the risk, finding out after the investigation why this occurred, and put a policy in place so this doesn't happen again. Do we want to know if an employee gets a paper cut? No, but we do want to know if an employee got cut or got, you know, injured really bad where it's going to cause some kind of medical attention down the road. Address smoking. It's illegal to smoke inside buildings. It's illegal to smoke close to buildings. So if you're like in a government facility, you have government contracts, they'll shut you down taking pictures across the street with your crew smoking within 15 feet of a building. So you just don't want to go down that road if you don't have to. Workplace violence. In Illinois, employees can carry guns, conceal and carry. So make sure in your workplace, if you don't want to allow weapons, that you clearly put that in your policy. Don't bring any guns, knives, weapons, explosive, wild dogs. Don't bring them to work. Prohibited conduct. I know this is common sense, but have it in your policy anyways. Not to act hostile. What is prohibited conduct? Stealing, swearing. That creates a hostile work environment. Common sense things, you just want to add them to the prohibited conduct. Destroying or defacing company property. As common sense as it may seem, you want to make sure to add that in there. You want to let employees know who to go to report certain things, how to report it. Do you want it via email? Do you want it in person? Should they send it to us one manager? Should they copy in all the managers? Have a very specific way to report issues, so that way they can get addressed timely. If employees are going to be driving company vehicles, I recommend the motor vehicle safety policy to remind them to wear a seatbelt. Practice watch out for distracted driving. Practice defensive driving. Do not drive under the influence. I know it seems common sense, but if you're in the court in a case because your employee got in an accident, they're going to ask you if you had this policy in place. And you want to say, yes, I did tell the employee to be safe, but he acted unsafe anyhow. I know I'm liable for it, but you know, don't charge me for negligence, right? Because you can show that you did have this policy in place. Lastly, or towards the bottom here, any kind of paid leave or unpaid leave where the employee is not going to be at work, you want to describe how they should tell you that they're going to be off, or even if you want them to give you notice. For example, if there's a funeral, do you give funeral pay? Or if they have to go to jury duty, do they let you know about their jury duty as soon as they get the notice? If they're on military leave, you have to provide them certain rights and leave rights for them. So make sure you have your labor law posters up or put them in your policy handbook to address those. Family Medical Leave Act, this is a federal law. Needs to be on your labor law posters. I recommend you guys add it to your policy handbook. Although FMLA is for employers with 50 or more employees, right now during time of COVID, there is sick leave that is mandated, whether you have 1 or 50. So just make sure your posters are up and make sure this is something in your policy handbook. So we can go to the next page. Oop. I don't know if I'm controlling it.
I am, Ruth. I am just
Okay, sorry.
just shuffling between the PDFs here, or at least attempting to. Why is it not coming up? There we go.
You can go to page 2 of 3. Okay, perfect. So some of the recommended policies, if you do create a policy handbook, if you have one, add it to it. Make sure employees know that in Illinois, they are at will, so they can leave at any time, and you as the employer can let them go at any time for just cause. Sexual harassment, make sure they understand that you have a zero tolerance policy on sexual harassment. Governor J.B. Pritzker did sign into law for 2020 that all companies must must do 1 hour of sexual harassment prevention training for all their employees, even contractors if they work for their team. So I've already done maybe about, I don't know, 20 of them so far. We're in October, so we have until the end of the year, December 30th, 2020, to get this completed. I can complete this 1 hour training via Zoom or in my office, 10 people at a time. Dress code. I described why dress code is important, not only just for safety, but for culture and morale. Office behavior, you want to put policies in place to identify who your culture is. Do you allow swearing? Do you allow people to be late? Do you allow people to eat by their office? Do you let people come in the office with no masks? Do people have to request time off a certain way? Develop your office behavior. What do you think is polite and productive? How do you want to work and create your work style? Safety and accidents, huge money with workers' comp and accidents. So have a safety policy. Tell employees what to wear, what PPE is required, personal protective equipment, boots, safety vests, hard hats, glasses, gloves, anything like that. Who to report to, when, if there's an injury. Make sure to do an investigation with the accident to find out if it was a frivolous complaint, if it really happened, or if it happened during football with friends, you know. Have an open door policy. Of course, I'm HR, so this is my favorite policy out of the entire policy is the open door policy. So let the employees know that if there's a problem, to address it. You know, you don't want to know every little gripe, but you do want to know if people are stealing. You do want to know if people are behaving badly, and all the good things too. You know, the good and the bad for open door policy. Time off reporting, have something in place to create a little more structure with your work schedule and team. So maybe you want to allow people to have time off, but they need to give you a week advance notice, or maybe not allow more than 2 people on the same shift, the same time off. Have control over that so you're not caught, you know, in too much of an inconvenience, or now, you know, your operations is suffering because you didn't want to put a time off reporting policy in place. And the last one is disciplinary policy. So of course we're human, and I want to promise you that every hire is going to act like a perfect angel for you and make you so much money. I can't, because as HR, I know that, you know, we're human and life happens, and every day is a different scenario, and everyone has a different emotional intelligence. So sometimes you do have to discipline an employee. Sometimes you do have to pull that employee to the side behind closed doors and address the issue. I know confrontation maybe is not everyone's strong suit, but I promise you it'll go a long way if you're trying to stop that behavior. So a write-up goes a long way, a conversation that's documented goes a long way. You don't even have to get things signed. As long as there's a witness, you can sign that they refuse to sign. I've won unemployment cases that way. Have a disciplinary policy. It's okay, you know, sometimes employees need to be managed. They will test the limits. If you want to add more policies, this is a guide to help you decide whether the policy is going to work in your culture or not. So you can ask yourself, what employee or culture problems are you having? So if one of your problems are, my clients keep calling me disgruntled because my employees arrive late, or you're losing clients, or your metrics are bad because your employees arrive late. So then maybe you want to implement an attendance policy, right? Employees must arrive or clock in or show up at a certain time. punch out at a certain time. And if they don't do that, hold them accountable, bring it to their attention. Another question to ask yourself is, what policies would you like and why? Sometimes you want a policy, but after giving it a full thought, maybe it doesn't make sense to bring it on board. Maybe adding a new policy might cost you so much money, more money than what you're trying to solve a problem for, if that makes sense. So think about all the ways the policy will affect you. Moving forward, think about, how is this policy going to affect the people in my organization, right? If you want to make someone a manager, if you want to implement a rule, maybe it's a little petty, you know, are the people going to be happy and responsive? Is there going to be change management issues that you now have to address? The second one is the office. How will this policy affect the office? Do I have to pay for the lights to stay on longer? Do I have to implement a new time clock, punch in, punch out system? Do I have to have the receptionist come in early or later? How is it going to affect the overall office? Another one is process. How is this new policy going to affect my process? Does it throw a monkey wrench in my smooth, you know, process already? Sometimes it does, but for the greater good of the organization or to be in compliance. Sometimes you have to stop doing it the old way because you've always done it. Because maybe you now need to be in compliance, or maybe now you need to just be more profitable and stop letting the time wasters and the old processes continue. Lastly, operations, a little bit like process, but you want to see how it's going to affect your operations. Will it slow it down? Will it help it? Will it streamline it? Is it going to create a hardship with inventory? Is it going to, you know, be a plus or a minus? So operations is a big one. Oftentimes HR is all about the people and they want to implement things for the people, but sometimes operations will turn around and say, no, I know it's for the people, but our customers will be very unhappy tomorrow morning if we implement this policy. So check with your departments, check with operations. If everything is still a green light, go ahead and implement it. It's not set in stone. You want to have in your policy the verbiage that you have the right to make changes to your policy handbook at any time, for any reason, with notice or without. This should cover, you know, how you run your organization, and adding things and not, you know, as you see fit. So just some recommended must-have policies I've seen and I've used to win, you know, workers' comp claims, unemployment claims, and to help manage the team. If you can please go to worksheet 3. Yes. Okay, so now you kind of have the building blocks to create a policy handbook, right? Day 1, have them sign the rules. And now you should also create an orientation, right? So the morning or the first day of that employee experience, it should be positive. It should have the employee familiarize itself with its workplace, with the company, where the lunchroom is. It's like your first day of school, right? They've probably shown up in a nice outfit on their first day of work. You want to give them that good experience. You don't want to just throw them in the lion's den and hope for the best. So give them a proper onboarding. Again, it should only be like, this part should really take like 15 minutes, right? 1 hour should be like reviewing the policy handbook, getting all the documents signed and dated, making copies of their driver's license or void check, etc., taking pictures for their ID. But this should really be like 15 minutes. So after they've completed all the paperwork and policy handbook, take them for a tour of the building, show them where the restroom is at, maybe introduce that person to the team in a conference room or via email. Review the emergency procedures, right? Where's the emergency exit? If there's a fire alarm or fire drill, where do they go, etc. Issue company properties. So if they need to wear uniforms for your company, or if they need access to the warehouse, you need to give them a key fob or any other technology. Make sure you document this, that you've assigned it to them. And make sure you assign it to them, because maybe they can't do their job without it. And oftentimes people onboard employees and that employee just sits there for like hours or maybe days until somebody finally tells IT to order a computer or to get them an email or give them access to their software. So minimize that delay. You want to minimize the time it takes for that person to start making money for you. You want to minimize the time it takes that it delays them from making money for you. That's what I meant to say. And then also is important, discuss the payroll frequency with the new employee on the first day. Let them know when they should expect their first paycheck. They are happy to be there, happy to work, but they're not there for free. So let them know your first paycheck is going to be direct deposit on this day. Now they can budget, they can set up their accounts or not. Like, it'll help them with their personal life. It goes a long way. They can discuss it with their spouse and all that good stuff. So this new hire checklist, just copy and paste it on a Word doc, and this is your new hire checklist. Format it and tailor it to your company specs, but make sure you check it off for every employee the same way. If you ever get caught in a Department of Labor claim, they're going to ask you, you know, how do you process your applications? How do you process your new hire? And you can say, this is my process. I even have a checklist. This is going to help you show that you are doing your best to be structured as possible. Have the application documents, the policy handbook receipt, the uniforms you issued. As you issue them, check it off. If you have to set alarms in your Outlook calendar for birthdays or work anniversaries, or when they start receiving benefits after 90 days, you know, set a little alarm so that way they're notified or you're notified. What I've come across and I've come to the realization is that I'm not a computer and I can't remember everything. So I use a checklist every time and make sure I've done it the same way for every employee every time, and I'm not discriminating. I like this new hire checklist because you can create your exit checklist on the back. So what I like to do is have this one pager, new hire checklist in the front, exit checklist in the back, and you keep it in the employee file folder. So as you hire them and onboard them, you make sure you've collected everything, you make sure they've signed everything, you make sure we've documented what was issued, and then we've set alarms for anything else we need to do during their employee life cycle. This is going to help you manage your employees without having a fancy, you know, employee management system, or maybe you use your payroll software to do it, but this is just going to be an easy structure to add to whatever you're already doing. And then if the employee doesn't work out because you fired them or they've quit, you could just turn the new hire checklist around, and now you complete the exit checklist and make sure you turn off their email, you collect the keys, you collect the badge, you remove them from certain access, you remove them from your company's website, just whatever is tailored to your company. Now you don't have to remember what you did, you know, 6 months ago or 2 years ago when they first started. It's very, very helpful, easy to do. Again, copy and paste on the Word document, and you'll have your onboarding, you'll have your orientation guide. And I believe that's it. Oh, there's more. Oh, wait, is there more? I think that's it.
Yeah, no, it's the same. I just scrolled up a little bit. Is it okay, Ruth, if I share this life cycle PDF with the team?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. This was helpful. Any questions or thoughts for Ruth?
You have so much to do, Ruth. I really do. You've opened my eyes. There's a lot to do that I haven't implemented as I need to. That is helpful.
Hey,
The idea is to work smarter, not harder. As small businesses, we already pay so much in taxes. There's no need to pay even more on kind of the employee process. So applying some of these will just keep you out of that radar.
How should a family-run-owned business write an employee handbook, Ruth? Is a question that we got.
Sure, just like if it was a regular business. So whatever the rules for the company, for the employees to follow, that should be it. If the mother is an employee, if the sister is an employee, then these are the rules that they should follow. And everyone should be okay with it. If they're not okay with it, then, you know, legally the true owner is the one that has the end say. But if it's a family-owned business and everyone has to get along for the success of the company, then they're going to think a little bit different with the policies they'll write. One thing I will say is don't put policies in the handbook that you're not willing to enforce. You know, if your personality is non-confrontational and you hate doing that, then don't put a policy that you're going to write someone up and, you know, discipline them every time they make a certain mistake. Then if you're not gonna do it, don't put it in there. You're gonna create more anxiety for yourself, and the employee's just gonna keep getting away with doing whatever that problem is. So like, don't pigeonhole yourself to certain disciplinary action. Like, keep it fluid. You know, you can change things at any time. Make sure that verbiage is in there. But that's my recommendation for a family-owned business is just really think about the policies that you want to enforce in your family.
And I would think too, Ruth, particularly with a family-ran business, you would probably even more so want to put those in there just because of the stickiness of familiar relationships. And sometimes there's a lot of blended responsibilities, or, you know, just kind of separating that family to business. And so sometimes I'd imagine that putting in that handbook into place can help.
Oh, for sure.
Separate those things. I think we have one more question, Ruth. How do you deal with a union worker that installed a portion of the scope of work and is wrong, and we have to redo the extra costs?
Oh, wow. Two things. With a union, maybe you have a union steward or a union rep that you can reach out to, and they can help you be like your muscle on the union side. And then also look at your CBA, look at your collective bargaining agreement. I love working with unions because their policy handbook is the CBA. It tells you how much they get a raise every year. They tell you how you can write them up, or what their disciplinary process is, or the drug and alcohol policy. It's all spelled out in there. So for something like non-performance, or like it sounds like it's a performance issue, like he didn't do his or her job, I would, and you're forced to like do the job and now it's costing you more, I would reach out to the union and say, hey, this is the issue I'm having. So just like union members can file a grievance against the company for like not paying holiday or not paying overtime or not following the union seniority list, just like union employees can file a grievance, a company can also file a grievance if they're in the wrong. So use that union muscle. Contact your union steward or your rep and let them know you need help with this situation. That's what I would recommend. Otherwise, if the cost is really, really big, maybe get a labor law attorney, a union attorney involved to help maybe cut your losses or really defend you, escalate it. What I learned in my HR experience also is I get involved so deeply into an employment law and labor law, like in the HR realm. But if I see something that requires an attorney to get involved in order to stop the bleeding, I give companies that professional recommendation and I'll tell them, hey, it's time for you to go to an attorney because you're losing way too much money right now. So I hope that helps.
One quick question.
Will be back.
Say it again.
With employees, we've had employees that we brought in make mistakes, new employees from the union, and brought it up with the BA and got up the ladder and have had them pay for the mistakes that their union members have made. So it is possible, like you were saying, to get something back out of it when they're supposed to be professional treatment, and when they make mistakes, in there you can go back after them. You have an avenue.
Yeah, as long as things are documented properly and you can really show like that it's wrong, having documentation and your ducks in the road to show facts goes a long way. But if you're just kind of upset and off the handle and like showing way too much emotion to the situation, the unions are not going to take you seriously, right? They're like a big machine. You got to come with all the receipts, all the facts, with the pictures. You got to come real correct with the union, for sure.
Can I jump in with a question?
Absolutely,
Yes.
Melissa.
Really quick, as an employer, is there an policy, a state and federal policy handbook that I may use? Because this is new for me and I may not catch all the policies that need to be implemented in my policy book. So is there something out there, state and federal?
Yes. So I mentioned the labor law poster. So
Right, you mentioned that.
I'm gonna do a little shameless plug, but the answer is the labor law posters, the federal and the state give you all the laws on the federal side and all the laws on the state side that you as an employer in Illinois, you have to follow. Minimum wage, meal and rest, sexual harassment, accidents, everything. So specifically, I have this HR starter kit binder, and in this binder, I have all the forms that you need to manage your employees. I don't sell the labor law posters, but if you go to jjkeller.com, they have them for $49.99, and it's a big laminated state and federal for 2020, okay? So I recommend you do that. But in my binder, okay, I have all 7 federal printed out, okay? And then I have all 7 state policies printed out. So everything that you would see on like those huge posters, I have them in this binder.
How much is that binder?
I'll definitely share that with the team, and if I'm gonna actually do a post on my LinkedIn, but I'll share a special rate that I'll give to this specific group with the CTA offline. So just because you guys are part of this special group, but JJ Keller can give you the poster so you'll know. And what I like to do with my policy handbook is sometimes I overlap. So you have to, by law, have these posters visible, like in a conference area, lunchroom. Having it in a binder like this is not legal. Okay, you have to have the poster still, but I like to have the binder like as a hand reference, right?
Yes.
So I don't have to get up out of my seat and go to the lunch area and read the fine print. Like, what is the law I have to say? I have this on hard copy and like an e-docs version. And then I include some of those policies in the policy handbook.
Thank you.
But that's your answer, the
Yes, it
federal
is.
and state law posters.
Okay, great.
Any other questions for Ruth? Should employees sign all policies outside of the handbook? Outside of the handbook?
So I'll answer this one just from what my attorney friends recommend to me. So have your policy handbook, and the policy handbook can say things like non-disclosure or confidentiality, non-compete, non-solicitation, like those 3 or 4 covenants. My attorney friends tell me it's recommended that you have them sign that outside of the policy handbook. So have that, if you do decide to implement a confidentiality policy, have them sign that as like a separate page off of the policy handbook receipt. Because it's my understanding that the policy handbook and the receipt, the acknowledgement receipt, is telling the employee that these are the rules. This is an acknowledgement that I've told you the rules. Not so much that you agree to follow them, okay? Now, if you have them sign the policy alone in a separate page, well, now the employee is not signing that they acknowledge to receive this specific policy, but they're also signing that they understand and will abide by the verbiage of that standalone agreement. So again, I'm not an attorney. I don't want to give wrong knowledge, but that's to my understanding, and that's what I would recommend my own company and anyone else. But at the minimum, have the policy handbook at a minimum, you know.
Awesome. Any other questions or thoughts? I know, Melissa, you asked about any like state or federal, not templates, but language of identified policies that you should consider, but also just think about too the state and federal wage regulations for those that you hire. So on the federal level, you have Davis-Bacon, and then you have locally the prevailing wages that obliges you, particularly those union contractors, to pay the employees at a certain wage or rate. So if you have any questions, I can send you some links so I can include those in our recap. But you want to make sure, based on our other conversations from previous weeks about estimating, budgeting, and though, you know, you want to make sure that you're considering those wages as you're bidding on those jobs.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Any other questions? Sorry guys, we missed our break, but I take it that we'll get out of here a few minutes earlier, so hopefully that makes up for it. Any other questions or thoughts for Ruth before we close out?
Thank you, Ruth. That was excellent.
Yeah, a round of applause. We definitely appreciate that. You know, obviously my experience, Chanel and I are probably about 4 to 5 months in with CTA, and we each onboarded virtually or online, and you know, so that experience through COVID or through the pandemic, I'm sure is interesting, and I'm sure a lot of this information is going to help them think about those things, particularly during this time, and what that looks like as they attract new employees. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us tonight. Next week, we have technology benefits to your business with Wash Floor Design Build Team. Obviously, the other prime contractor joint venture working on our RPM. And so I encourage you to think of any questions around technology, think of any questions around RPM or the wash floor team, just to stimulate the conversation next week. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will see you guys next Tuesday.
Thank
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
You too, Divi.
You too. Thank you.